course, a couple of issues that the northeastern states continue to battle, and one such is the demographic change. That is one of the biggest topics that have been debated politically. Also, it has grown out to be a big issue even in the elections, which was not the case many years ago. But this time, sir, how do you see that how crucial it is to resolve the issue in as soon as possible?
If I have to take that question, I'll only put it like this. As an army man, we never looked at the demographic changes. We never looked at the religion, because for me, only one religion exists in the country, and that is your India, India and India. I do respect the religion of everybody, and in Northeast it is generally found. I think the Mr. Secretary will be able to tell you better, because he stays there, that in the border areas there are increasingly alarming reports that a kind of Christianity creeping in or enlarging or whatever. But as far as I am concerned, an Indian Christian is as good as me. Mr. Secretary will be a better man to answer that.
I'll go across to you, sir, on that. Of course, Nagaland, the issues connected with Nagaland, but if you could just shed some light on the issue of the porous border and the infiltration that still continues.
Well, let me say that the problem begins with Assam, actually, because the infiltration begins from Assam, and the overflow is, coming into the state of Nagaland. And we're not blaming Assam, but we also have to blame ourselves, because we are the host to these people who are Bangladeshi immigrants. And somewhere along the line, because our Naga villages are so small in terms of population, you see, they expand that population by allowing these migrants to come and slowly begin to set roots, and very many of them have even been included in the electoral roll. So today it may seem just a small beginning, but I think I do agree with the danger that there may come a time when, if there is absolutely no addressing of this problem that is slowly but surely increasing with the Bangladeshi, especially Bangladeshi immigrants, it is definitely being seen as a problem. And even within the state of Nagaland, there has been a lot of times when government has been forewarned that the inner line paths should be put into operation more strictly. But then when the population ourselves, gives that kind of an encouragement, welcoming them, because they need the population in the village as a workforce and so on, then it gets to be a serious problem. And I think somewhere along the line, our people need to realize that this demographic change that you're talking about can be a real problem in the future. And of course, there have been times when I've been writing and saying, well, today, these Bangladeshis are serving you and they do anything you want because they are the underdogs. But as times go by, they are getting educated, their population is increasing. There will come a time when they will tell us exactly what we are telling them to do, and we will be doing what they are doing now in the future. That's the drastic picture that I've been trying to paint for our own people as well. So I acknowledge the fact that the demographic change is a subject matter that needs a rather serious focus, and the state government needs to begin to look at this.
Nagaland might be small in terms of its size, but there have been, of course, impending issues it continues to battle, sir. We've seen that in 2015 and in 2017 there have been accords that have been signed. There was the peace process also, which is said to be a stalled peace process now, sir.
Yeah.
How do you think that this could be resolved? What is your view on the entire the issues that have been continuing when it comes to Nagaland?
Okay, well, that's a rather touchy kind of a subject, even for the Nagas ourselves, because we have become so very, very critical about each other, seeing eye to eye is becoming a challenge that we ourselves are facing. But then at the same time, you see, Nagas have a very, very troubled history with India. From the early 50s or the mid 50s, Nagas who had begun the war of independence with India, against India, our history goes way back during the British time when Nagas had submitted the memorandum to the Simon Commission when state reformation was being taken into account. And they said, please, we have lived free all our lives. So if the British wants to leave India, then please leave us alone and let us be free as we have lived all our lives. So, I mean, the history begins from there. And then, of course, there have been a whole lot of things, you know, and you still have a lot of references being made on the plebiscite that was held in 1951. Then you have the Nagas having declared independence on the 14th August, one day before India, and so on. We have a history of this situation where Nagas always have felt that we have never been a part of India, that we have lived free all our lives, and that once the British left, India, having suffered the colonial rule for so long, contracted the colonial disease and came into Nagaland as the colonizers. That is from the standpoint of the Nagas. I think the government of India acknowledges the fact that, yes, Nagas have lived a free life. But then, as the circumstances go, it is important, both geographically, internationally speaking, the location, strategic positioning, and so on and so forth, all told. Nagaland happens to be a very, very critically located state that the government of India cannot just overlook. And so when the Indian army has come into Nagaland and then the war of independence began, and there have been a whole lot of real excruciating inhuman experiences that had been suffered by the people. Now, I am somebody who was already around 12, 13 years old. I'm 1 year, by the way, I'm 1 year older than India's age. I'm now 49. I was born 1 year before India independence. And so I have seen both sides of the picture, the real desperate picture of how the Nagas have gone through an inhuman period of persecution. Villages being burned down, granaries have been burned, peoples have been just shot because they were basically able-bodied to join the national movement, and so on and so forth. And then, you know, you had this grouping, as they called it then, where 5, 6 villages would be grouped together for the purpose of ensuring that the community does not assist the national workers, okay? And so they were put into encampments under security, but there was no shelter, there was no arrangements for regular kind of food, there was no health managerial system. After so many years, the Naga problem has now been brought to a close. So that was the framework agreement. Now we have so many factions beyond the NSC and IM, and these factions had come together as a working group. It began with 6 of the factions working together, and again, they were also having a separate negotiation with the government of India. And they also have arrived at a conclusion on the 17th November 2017, I mean. And that is what we call the agreed position. See? Now, this is the totality of the efforts long drawn give and take that has resulted in these two agreements, okay? And so now we have come to some kind of a thought that at last the Naga issues is beginning to see some light. That's what we thought. But then after the framework agreement and the agreed position being signed, there has been no forward momentum.
Okay.
The NSCNIM people want a flag and the constitution as part of a solution. The government of India said flag, constitution, that's not negotiable.
Okay. So
That's
I'll
where-
just go across to Colonel
Yeah.
Shailendra Singh on that. So do you agree with the points that he has raised, and you think that things have not really been resolved there?
I'll put it like this. Mr. Secretary has said something which is right. I do agree. Whatever has happened has happened. There is a history, there is a checkered history, there is a good history, there is a bad history. But as far as I am concerned, I am one who looks at optimism. And the optimism, as brought out by Mr. Secretary himself, is that from a history, we have graduated to a reality. We have a choice whether we want to only get stuck with the history or we want to go forward with the reality. I think very beautifully put by him that there was an understanding which led to some kind of agreement. That means we were understanding that the union government was understanding that Nagaland is important. Now whether they were free, they were independent, they were everything, but the reality is finally it was for their good, our good, mutual good, area good, region good, that we are together. And we remain together. There is no denial on it. Otherwise, that understanding to reach the agreement level would have never happened. Another is, there was an agreement, there was an agreed line, that is what a beautiful, which they were looking, but they didn't see the light of day. I can understand that. But sir, or everybody, please evaluate, हाथ रखिए अपने दिल पर and evaluate कर देखिए. Reaching up to this level is also quite an achievement. From a nothing to 2015, coming to some kind of agreement. Well, let us give credit, let us give that salute to the government of India and the Naga people who were involved for that part of it. I am not a fan of NSCNIM. I agree with them, with sir. I would have done rather more damage than anything else. I think the challenge today is what he's very rightly brought out, that yes, from an agreed position, where are we heading? We did agree up till some extent in 2015 and 2017, and there we found that lot of give and take has already happened, as acknowledged by him. Now remains the day of light. How does the day of light come? Does it come only from the union government, or does it come from the Naga people, or does it come from the so-called or the dictator called NSCNIM? I don't give any justification on that. Everybody can evaluate themselves. I think the sentiment, feeling and the uprightness of Nagas will absolutely prevail, and the central government will definitely help, because there is an importance of Naga peace accord. Because if this way the accord start failing, then you have the whole of Northeast at stake.
I think, may I just
Yes, sure, sir.
add a little bit this thing. Now, these two agreements, in as far as the civil population or the stakeholders are concerned, you see, they are completely fed up with the psychological fear factor that is persistent every day of our lives under threat of guns. And you are being taxed again and again by so very many factions. And to the extent where even the state government is paying certain percentages to, I know that the state government will feel hurt when I say this, but I know that the state government is also paying tax to these factions, you see. So that gives you an idea as to how much of burden a common man is shouldering over the years. And this is not for just one day. It is for how many years, you see. So I think here what I would like to say, even for the government of India to listen to, is this. They've got to take heart take the challenge and make a call, because these are formal, really challenged discussion that they have arrived at a conclusion such as the framework agreement and the agreed position.
Sir, if you can allow me, a state government should not hate you. Let me tell you, because you are not criticizing, you are being a good critic for the benefit of your own state. This is how I see it. Now, coming to this point about living in fear, guns, tax, being paid even by the state government. Well, who's doing it? It is the public who is allowing that to happen, for whatever reason. Let's be very clear, sir. Nagaland is Nagaland, Tripura is Tripura, Manipur is Manipur. Manipur does not mean that every action there, every election there is the responsibility of the government of India. You people have to rise in your own way.
Finally, I think we have had a very vast discussion on the issues on Nagaland. So I'll just come back to the bigger picture, the larger picture now. That is, of course, Northeast, and it's also being touted as a growth engine, as one of the biggest contributors, and how it is important that for the vision of Viksit Bharat for actually to materialize, and we should be on our way already. I think how important it becomes that these issues, so in your understanding, these issues persist in different parts of the country in their own way, in their own forms and shapes and sizes, and I would say in whatever degree. But the fact that Northeast is a very important strategically and economically as well, because we're talking about India rising up to become a third largest economy now. How do you think that Northeast can contribute even further?
Well, I think for me, it is just a simple focus, as I said earlier, that as long as the environment of violence exists and persists, the chances for Nagaland is very, very slim. We can never catch up with the rest of the world. But the moment we have this equivalent, peaceful environment like the rest of the country, then I can assure you, there will come a time when even a Naga can become the Prime Minister of India.
Why not?
Under a peaceful environment. You see, if you take a very careful look, Nagas, as small as we may be, have produced Olympians like Dr. T. Rao in the football captain, the Indian team, you see. And we have scientists in America who are Nagas. We have had good national, international level people coming up. None of them have ever had any kind of an infrastructural support system to train them, to nurture them, nurse them into a professional kind of a status. None. They did it on their own.
Shailendra Singh, do you agree?
No.
She's right.
Because
Sir,
such complaints would come up from every corner
this
of
is
the
what
country.
I'm saying.
No,
This is
no,
what.
no. So what I would like to say is, so when we look at, because Nagaland is definitely not comparable with the rest of the Northeast as well. You see, Northeast has its own peculiar problems in pockets. But Nagaland's problem of insurgency is the oldest in history in the Northeast. And without this being quelled, without understanding people, see, this environment that disturbs the mind of the people, where your freedom is getting, and that's why I said, Nagas are living half a life still. Huh? It's not something like you people can freely move around, do anything you want. In Nagaland, you've got one small fear of this or that all the time. And there is no possibility of even bigger companies coming to do business in Nagaland because of the fear factor. Or certain other land laws and various other are there as well. But what I'm trying to say is, Nagas can catch up with the rest of the world as quickly, but as long as this environment of unsettled environment continues. You see, we are being dragged backwards all the time, and we cannot even produce a proper entrepreneur in any kind of a field, even as of today. And all the business is being done by people from the mainland, you see. So, I mean, these are pictures that are still a part and parcel of what Nagas are going through. And in order to catch up with the rest of the world, these are smaller areas of changes that are desperately required for improvement.
You think that, do you agree that it's a Nagaland problem or it's an overall problem also? Because when we speak about economy, it's also about connectivity. You know, there are a lot of projects that are also being talked about. You know, we understand the problem of the Siliguri corridor. You know, it has its own issues. And, you know, if I just take it, you know, beyond Nagaland, you think that there are many other factors like even relations with Bangladesh that are going on, which also affect connectivity. How do you actually carry forward with those projects so that we can have a development push in the 8 states?
I'll tend to agree on that. Connectivity is a big issue, and if you bring in development, you have to have that correct connectivity on ground to make a region prosper. That trilateral going up to Thailand from Moreh is a pending project. We have completed our side, they are not completing that side, etc., etc. But more important is who's suffering? The region is suffering. It's still, I can quote this example time and again to you. When I was in Tripura, that is Agartala, I asked somebody, I said, tomato kya hai rate? So he says 25 rupees. I said, fantastic, 25 rupees a kg is not a problem. I said, give me 2 kgs. He said, no, 25 rupees per piece. It was because of the connectivity. No, I'm being honest. It is connected. You know why? Because the tomato takes so much of time, and the fresh one comes only by air. So it has to be like that. So connectivity is a big issue. Providing infrastructure is again a big issue, because if you have the correct kind of cold storage there, obviously you can come and store it. Today, if we talk of connectivity, at least from the medical point of view or emergency point of view, any and every state capital is connected by air. I don't say it is absolutely ultimate, no, but it's a fantastic way to connect. The kind of helicopters which are standing in each state capital is for what? It is connectivity. Maybe for the safety of the people, medical aid and etc. More important is, again I insist, we took Nagaland as an example for today's discussion. Each and every state is unique in its way.
All right, I think that we had a very open and very freewheeling discussion. At the same time, many pertinent and the burning issues of Northeast and in particular Nagaland have been raised in this discussion. I thank you so much, Colonel Shailendra Singh and Mr. Khekiye Sema, for joining us here at the Republic Studios with this very special conversation. Thank you so much.